Welcome to the November 19, 2019 meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have a roll call, please?
Council members Agajanian,
Present.
Devine,
Here.
Garpetian,
Here.
Mayor Najarian, Mayor Pro Tem Quintero.
Here. Mr. Najarian is a guest of the government of Japan and won't be with us this evening. Flag salute will be done by Council Member Devine.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for this evening's invocation, which will be delivered by Mr. Bill Weissman of the American Humanist Association.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city staff, and the public. I would like to thank the City of Glendale for providing me the opportunity to present a secular humanist invocation for tonight's meeting. As secular humanists, we support civil and human rights for all people, separation of church and state, peace among nations, and we believe that science and reason should provide the sole basis for public policy and education. We are gathered today, both religious and secular members of our community, with the shared belief that we must treat our fellow human beings with respect and dignity. Rather than bowing our heads, I would like to ask everyone present to look around this room in appreciation for our elected officials, our city staff, and our involved citizens behind me. And I know they're involved or they wouldn't be here tonight. These three groups make up the tripod that creates and supports an incredibly diverse community consisting of many nationalities, races, gender and sexual identities, religious and non-religious citizens. About 65 different languages are spoken in the households of GUSD students. This diversity is truly a thing of value because it provides the broadest possible variety of perspectives, experiences, and viewpoints. And it is in the clash of different viewpoints, in a crucible of free and open discussion and debate, where good decisions are forged that benefit our entire community. And so tonight, I ask our elected officials to make their decisions based upon facts, empathy, and reason, based on what is best for our community. And I also ask the citizens of Glendale to partner with our elected officials and city staff. That doesn't mean agreeing necessarily with everything they do, but it does mean participating. It means voting in every election, attending council meetings, staying informed regarding local issues, volunteering as a board or commission member, serving jury duty. When we work together to move forward in a spirit of mutual respect and common decency, we showcase what is best about our community, our state, and our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiseman, for your extensive involvement in Glendale civic life throughout the years. Great to see you. Mr. Clerk, do you have your report?
The agenda for the November 19, 2019 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council is posted on Thursday, November 14, 2019 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. And it is also noted that we were to post this outside the hotel in Niuatani, Tokyo, in the lobby. Unfortunately, we were not able to fulfill that requirement because of the hotel's policies and regulations.
Right, Mr. Najarian planned to attend by conference call, but was unable to do so. What's next?
Next is presentations and appointments. At 3A is agenda preview for the meetings of Tuesday, November 26, 2019. All regular Housing Authority and City Council meetings for November 26, 2019 have been canceled due to it being a week of the holiday in observance of Thanksgiving on that Thursday.
Okay, next.
Item 4 is consent items, including minutes, following our routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before motion is proposed.
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second. Any comments? Roll call.
Council members Agajanian?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian? Mayor Pro Tem Quintero.
Yes. Next, please.
On the agenda at item 5 is city council and staff comments.
Any city council comments? Okay, any staff comments? I hear none. Next, please.
Next item is the community event announcement portion and 3-minute general public comments. This is reserved for individuals who wish to forego the 5-minute oral communications period at the conclusion of the meeting.
All right, I have 2 speakers. We'll start with Relinda Bessmeyer.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. My name is Relinda Biesmeyer, and I am a 45-year Glendale resident. And, you know, my pet project is I'm on the board of the Glendale Youth Orchestra, and this is our 31st season. And I just invite the community to come to our concert this coming Sunday, the 24th, at 7 o'clock at the Alex Theater. And I need you to know that we have a new director after 19 years because Brad retired. And so Dr. Henry Shen is our new director and conductor. And so we are calling our program New Adventures because the music program is going to be very different from what you've heard. Still a lot of classical, but at the same time, some of the modern, music. So we will have John Williams' Star Wars, and the second part of our program. And the kids, young people, will be sitting rather than standing. So you will see some different things. And so, but these kids are the most fantastic young musicians that you'll ever really see, aside from Coburn Music and, also the LA Junior Fitness Youth Orchestra. So, as I said, our presentation is on the 24th. We invite the community to come. Tickets are $12 for seniors and students, $15 for regular admission. But at the same time, we have a promo code, which is GYO 2020, and so you end up paying $10. Oh, am I 3 minutes? Usually I don't talk that long.
No, that's the fire.
Okay. And so I always tell people to park at the Orange Street garage because parking is going up here in Glendale. But at the same time, there's no hassle in going, and that we do validate parking so that you only pay $1 instead of $6 if you run late in coming out. But I just want you to come, that, you will be missing something that's so important to our community if you don't come. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Give us the date and
Oh,
location
it's
again.
Sunday the 24th at the Alex Theater. And so we are presenting members of the Alex. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Garpetian.
Oh, it's my turn already. Oh, you want to go through them? The rest of the speakers? Do you have more speakers?
I thought you were reacting to her.
No.
for some
no,
different-
Yeah,
okay.
I have some comments.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right, next is Tony Passarella.
Well, this is pretty intimate, isn't it? Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, staff, viewing public. Tony Passarella, longtime member of the city of Glendale. Before you put up the slide, Artie, I want to read wireless telecom facility encroachment permit, 12.08.37. K6, to the maximum extent reasonably feasible, the proposed wireless telecom facility has been designed to blend in with the surrounding area, and the facility is appropriately designed for the specific site. Can I see the slide, Artie?
Sure. Which one? Do we just, is that good?
Okay, so that's on Chevy Chase. The specific address, 2224. Next slide. Look at all of this equipment there. So this is smack dab in the middle of the residential area there on Chevy Chase in the canyon. Now, I'm sure the residents were probably clamoring for this, but that looks like an awful lot of power to me. And I'll ask you, does this blend in? Does this blend in? Where's the Public Works? I'm pretty sure that's against the code. But we have a lawyer coming, so we'll figure it all out. Next slide, Artie. This is, I just spotted this today. 1325 South Brand. Actually, it's on Los Feliz. So there it is, AT&T. These are the people that are submitting these permits. And by the way, that wasn't even on, that one there, number 39, wasn't even on the Glendale rumor page. This was, they snuck that in. I don't know what's going on. Next slide, Artie. Okay, now that blends in. That blends in. You wouldn't, I mean, if I wasn't looking for this stuff, you'd never see it. You'd never see it. But I'm looking for it. So that blends in. The other one, not so much. Not so much. Could you go back, Artie, to the other slide? One more. So the citizens of Glendale, this is liable to show up in your front yard really soon. So we're already starting to get these up there. So I wonder what the property values, how that's going to affect the property values in Glendale. My research shows 5 to 20%. It's going to be pretty hard. It's going to take a while to sell a property with this kind of equipment. That's 30 feet. I walked it off, 30 feet from one home right in front of the home, the door or the window to the bedroom or whatever. So this is objectionable, and I'd like a response from the Public Works here. Please do your research, citizens. You can start right here. Don't believe what the FCC tells you. Let's do some research on our own.
All right.
Other than the health problems, we got other problems with the property values. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Garpetian.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Quintero. There are a couple of events I want to mention, a few events actually, that I went last week. Most of us were at the Americana Christmas tree lighting ceremony. It was a great event, as usual. They know how to throw a party, and it was a good event for children as well. Took a lot of pictures, and we had a lot of fun. Thank you for that. Friday at noon, we attended the luncheon celebration, 9th anniversary luncheon celebration for Age of Learning. I wanna ask staff to maybe have a report as to what this company is doing at this time and the future that it's ahead of us, ahead of all of us, and what they're doing in Asia, in China, in other parts of the world. That it's amazing the amount of work that they do, and I didn't even know about this. And I want to have maybe a report on this Age of Learning. Maybe they can come in and give us a presentation or what have you. That's just a request. Also, Community Services and Parks had Friday night. They had what do they call it? Thanksgiving. It was an event for kids, a Thanksgiving event. They had threw a party for our children at the Pacific Community Park. I stopped by, but I didn't have my swimsuit, and I didn't want to step into Mayor Najarian's territory because he's an avid swimmer. So I didn't participate. But it was a great event. I want to thank the staff for doing that, because everybody had a good time, and it was late at night, but they're still there. Yesterday, City of Glendale hosted an event. This was a discussion on water and legislative issues on water, because not many people talk about it. We always talk about energy and power, but water is not being talked about so much. This was done between Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and Assemblymember Friedman. They brought so many good information, and the laws that was passed and was signed into law last year. And I think we need to follow those, because there are so many interesting issues coming up. Also, had one more. What else did we do yesterday? So many events going on at the same time. Oh, Glendale Latino Association's Cops for Kids toy drive. Yet again, it was a successful event there. They collect toys for children who are underprivileged, and it was hosted by Porto's Bakery. As always, the food was great, and we had a great time over there as well. And great event that brings the entire community together. So I want to thank Glendale Latino Association as well as our police department for what they're doing for our children. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, Mr. Clerk.
Under adoption of ordinances, 7A is Director of Public Works regarding ordinance amending section 10.40.110, 10.40.120, 10.40.140, and 10.40.160 of the Glendale Municipal Code 1995 relating to parking meter zones on parcels of land established. This was introduced by Councilmember Devine on November 5th, 2019.
Ms. Spears.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, as our city clerk read into the record, this item was before you a few weeks ago related to the analysis and studies that were done for both the downtown Glendale area as well as Montrose Shopping Park Association area in the Montrose side of our city. The information was presented. This ordinance this evening is related to the parking meter zones and parcels of land that's established. For you to set the dollar amounts on that. If you have specific questions, Mr. Emrani is in the audience and can answer any of those questions.
Are there any questions or comments? No? Okay, well, I think it's a well-measured plan. I think there's a lot of research went into it, and I think it's going to work quite well for the merchants and the people that use our parking structures as well as street parking.
I'm sorry. One quick comment about the fees that are being increased. I just want to mention that these are not astronomical numbers, and it's very minimal. And the goal is to have people park in parking structures that we have, and they're 90 minutes free instead of driving around the neighborhoods for half an hour to find a spot in front of a restaurant. So this is not just to penalize people, and again, the fees are not going up too much. It's like 50 cents an hour, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And the goal, again, is we have 4 parking structures that somehow are not being utilized completely, and we want to offer people to get into our parking structures instead of parking on the street. So I just want to mention that because there were a lot of talk. I had people approach me and said, "Why are you increasing our fees?" But when I explain what it is, they say, "Oh, fine." So that's what this is for. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, roll call.
We need a motion and a second for the adoption.
I want to make a comment before, and I'll move the item. I just wanted to thank the Downtown Business District Association and Montrose Shopping Park Association because they were partners in this revision, and I'm very happy that everybody worked together to bring about this ordinance. So with that said, I will move the item.
Second.
Roll call.
Council members Agajanian?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian? Mayor Pro Tem Quintero?
Yes. 7B, please.
B is Director of Community Development and City Attorney regarding adoption of an urgency ordinance of the City of Glendale, California, establishing a sidewalk vending program in compliance with Senate Bill 946, amending the Glendale Municipal Code 1995, adding Chapter 5.35, amending Sections 1.20.010 and 9.14.140, and declaring the urgency thereof. Introduced by Councilmember Agajanian, November 5th, 2019. B1 is an urgency ordinance for adoption. 2 is a resolution amending the citywide fee schedule by establishing fee for sidewalk vendor license. And 3 is a resolution amending the citywide fee resolution regarding administrative citation fine amounts for sidewalk vending activity and amending the citywide fee schedule to add violations subject to fines for sidewalk vending activity.
Ms. Spears.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Quintero will go directly to Mr. Garcia, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. The item before you is the proposed adoption of the urgency ordinance on sidewalk vending along with 2 resolutions. This ordinance was introduced a couple weeks ago. The council introduced it with a couple of changes, including changing the distance requirement in some areas from 10 feet to 15 feet, including the distance from sidewalk vendors and entrances to businesses, among others. In addition, one of the additional changes was to require that any sidewalk vendor display their health permit in addition to the city-issued permit. And then the third change was reducing the proposed insurance requirements from a $1 million, $2 million policy limit to $100,000, $200,000. Council also asked us to do a little more digging or to find out with regard to the insurance requirements of some of the other cities that have adopted sidewalk vending regulations. As we noted in the report, there is a policy for food vendors called the Food Liability Policy, or FLIP, which is offered at $1 million, $2 million limits that would it would provide those policy limits and starting in the range of $299 per vendor, per cart, I guess. In addition, we've noted in the report where some cities have waived their insurance requirements. In other words, the ordinance has authorized the staff to impose insurance requirements, but our research has indicated that the insurance, in those cases, the cities have not actually imposed the insurance requirements. In addition, there are some cities such as Huntington Beach and Downey and I believe West Hollywood that have imposed insurance requirements. And the information we've received, they have not received any applications under their sidewalk vending program. And whether there's a correlation or not, we can't say. We've talked to some of the staff members in some of those jurisdictions. They think it may be a factor, but again, there's no direct correlation that we're aware of, or no direct evidence, for lack of a better term. So those are the items before you. The council also introduced the proposed license fee at $295 annual fee, and the justification for the fee is included in the staff report. Lastly, as an urgency ordinance, it would require 4 votes of the council to adopt it as an urgency. The council could also adopt the ordinance without the urgency with a majority vote. With that, I'll submit, and if there are any questions, be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
I have one concern, and that's about the schools and the distance from the schools. And according to the ordinance, it's 200 feet from the school. And I'm concerned about traffic around the schools, and 200 feet doesn't seem like very much. So I'd like to see if we can adjust that to maybe 400 to 500 or somewhere in between. At the schools, I don't know I know it's also for fire stations and hospitals, and I haven't heard anything from them, and I know our fire department is here. I don't know if you are concerned about that. I'm just concerned about the schools, and I think the farther we get away from schools, because, there's always pickup and drop off, and if you have someone close by, kids could go running out, and I just worry about the safety. So that's the only suggestion or change that I'd suggest tonight, if any of my colleagues would agree.
Any other questions or comments?
If you have a speaker.
I have one speaker card, Rick Lemo.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, City Staff, City Management. First and foremost, I'm here tonight representing the Downtown Glendale Association as their president. Actually, our new name is the Greater Downtown Glendale Association. And first and foremost, before everything else, I want to thank you as well as our city staff and city attorney's office, as well as public safety, for helping to get this ordinance put together. There are concerns that this will virtually instantly solve. The one comment that I would like to make is in regards to the insurance. Why insurance is so important to the Greater Downtown Glendale Association is, as you know, we are a self-assessment district. So every bit of money we spend in a litigious society such as ours goes away from keeping the streets clean, promoting our downtown, providing the atmosphere that you see with holiday decor and all. In the event that someone gets hurt or slips and falls on grease or whatever, in addition to suing the city, they will, just because that's life, sue the Downtown Glendale Association. So we believe that requiring a baseline of insurance is something that protects all of us, protects taxpayers, but more importantly, it protects those of us who go beyond taxes and assess ourselves. So if you would keep that in mind when you consider this evening's ordinance, we would appreciate it. Thank you again very much for getting this done so quickly. This will help us solve a lot of problems that are negatively impacting public safety already. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll go first. So we have an emergency ordinance, but I see absolutely no emergency. I've driven around the city, continue to drive around the city looking for vendors. Remember, now it is completely open. You don't need insurance. You don't need anything other than, I suppose, you need your county health certificate. But basically, anyone can vend in this city. And yet we've had 0 complaints from the police department and other city agencies. There seems to be a hot dog vendor in front of a local nightclub that I guess late at night quite a few people are eating there, and there seems to be an issue with cleanup. But other than that, and people are selling some sort of little trinkets near the Americana. I didn't see them on Friday or Saturday. I wasn't able to attend on Thursday, but evidently there were 2 people there on Thursday selling their trinkets. At any rate, we've gone to an emergency ordinance. The ordinance is super strict, the way I see it. You can't vend in the downtown area. You can't vend in Montrose or in Kenneth Village. So anyway, I think our basic business areas are pretty well covered. All of the surrounding, the schools and the hospitals and the fire stations, et cetera, they're also covered. So I would support that part of the ordinance. However, I'm not going to support the insurance provisions. The city attorney has told us that the city of Glendale is not liable in the event that something happens concerning a food vendor or any other kind of vendor. So I'm not going to support that measure in the ordinance. So it's up to the city council to decide whether they want to just pass it without the insurance at this point and come back and address it. But that's where I stand on this ordinance. So whatever comments you want.
So my question is, if we want to pass the emergency ordinance, will it take, since there are 4 of us, will it take 3 votes or will it take 4?
4.
We'll take all 4.
So, questions? So if it's an urgency ordinance, when does it take effect?
Immediately.
Immediately. And if it's not, because we don't, I can see that, I can
30
count
days.
both.
30 days.
30.
So it'll be 30 days? So in order to have Mayor Najarian's vote, he was supposed to basically join the meeting via
Correct.
Skype or via whatever, phone or what have you, which he cannot. So my question to my colleagues is, do we want to postpone this until next week so we will have Mr. Mayor Najarian here as well? Or, sorry? Oh, we are off next week. Okay, so that's 2 weeks already from.
You do have a meeting on December 3rd. Mayor Pro Tem Quintero, members of the City Council, and if the council was desirous of postponing the vote until the 3rd, and if you were able to get, not knowing how Mr. Najarian
I don't know,
would
so-
vote, if you were to get the 4 votes on December 3rd, it would be an immediate adoption of the ordinance.
Okay. So
Our suggestion, though, would be for you to move forward this evening, even if it is, depending on where council is, if it's a 3-1, at least it gives you the 30 days, and it will be effective as of December 19th, 20th?
Thereabouts, 30
Right.
days, whatever that is.
30 days after its adoption. At least you have something in place moving forward in 30 days in case something were not to be a 4
before one in December.
I would say,
But again, it's completely up to the
right, and alternatively, the council could adopt it if it was supportive of all the other measures in the ordinance, adopt it if there was unanimous consent for everything but the insurance requirements, and then ask to agendize the subsequent inclusion of insurance at a later date. But in order to pass an ordinance tonight that would be effective tonight, it would take 4 votes.
So, Mr. Quintero, are you willing to
I'll support
it
the
without the
ordinance, but not with the insurance provision.
Okay. So that can be talked about in a later date? Okay. I think we need to have an an ordinance in place sooner than later. So if we can, I want to ask my colleagues if they are willing to support that. So take the insurance part out for time being, have the ordinance take place.
Want to ask our attorney. So let's assume we adopt it without insurance, then we'll come back just for the insurance and we re-vote this same issue again?
It would need to be
How is this
agendized.
gonna work?
It would need to be agendized separately for a request for an ordinance to basically amend the ordinance that you would be adopting tonight, presumably. And that would take an agenda item. It would need to come back for introduction and a second reading, but that could come back, and so it'll probably be another 60 days before it's effective.
The insurance
But
piece.
the insurance piece, everything else will be
Correct.
effective, as soon as it's adopted, if it's adopted on an urgency
Then
basis.
I will introduce the ordinance.
I have one more comments before that, Mr. Mayor. Also, I received a few phone calls from merchants in Montrose Shopping Park area, and they were saying that why is it that since they belong to the shopping park on Ocean View, the businesses on Ocean View on North and South, and also Wickman Way and Market Street, why are they excluded from this ordinance? Because they have the same traffic, the same foot traffic, the same conditions as Honolulu, basically, and they're kind of excluded. I want to know if we want to add these two streets to the ordinance, is that possible to do tonight, or it's a big change from what was introduced?
If I may, I think it would be something that would need to come back in a subsequent amendment, because it might not be considered germane, because people wouldn't have noticed that was part of the ordinance.
Okay.
And the other
And we'd
piece of
also
it
have to,
is-
we'd need to know, we'd have the language right now.
I know the reason, because the sidewalks
The
are not
sidewalk
wide
size.
enough for
Correct.
any vendor to, have any business there, but because the sidewalks, especially on Ocean View, are very, very narrow. But, okay, since we cannot do that tonight,
Right, I have another speaker card. Let's hear from that person, and we'll keep going. Gigi Garcia.
Thank you, Council. I came on behalf of the Montrose Shopping Park Association. I'm the Vice President, and I just wanted to comment on a couple things that the Pro Tem Mayor had mentioned. It isn't maybe an emergency, but I have noticed that one of our most popular events, the Wine Walk last week, we had a truck pull up and unhitch a truck, and it was not a shot from within the BID. It was somewhere out on Foothill, and they were going to start cooking right there on the street in a spot that was not an official parking spot. And it was right in front of luckily it was in front of my store, so I was able to see it, and we got on it. And at that point, it was a permitted area for an event. So we're very concerned that we support our merchants first, and that they're assessed members, and they pay into it. And so we always want to support our merchants. And no, it may not be a red flag emergency, but I see it getting worse and worse every day. We have bake sales every weekend on every street corner. Some are just schools, those aren't very concerning, but some are, we don't know from where. They, put up random signs. So it is a concern of ours. It takes business away from the merchants. And I also have to agree with Mr. Lemo on the insurance requirements. That's my general opinion. Every business on the street has to have insurance, and I feel like if you're going to come and do something outside of a business or in an area, that you should be covered also.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
In this case, Mr. Garcia, was that one of the covered areas in Montrose, or we don't really know?
The section of orange?
What
No, the
specific
business-
location
Yeah,
that she mentioned?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was covered.
yes,
That is a covered area.
yeah.
So I would like to,
And, well, I wanted to ask if there was anyone that would agree with the extension of the number of feet from a school, 200 feet to 300 feet?
I'm okay with that, but I think I want to ask one more question because I think that there is a restriction on the hours between the 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Am I correct?
Yeah,
There are no vending in front of schools
no.
anywhere close to school.
200 feet of any public or private to between the hours of 8 and 5.
Right. There are
On
no,
days the school's open to
Yeah,
the
when the
students.
school's open, they have to be 200 feet away. Correct?
Correct.
Yes. So
okay,
what I'm
so
saying
yeah,
is,
okay, guys, so they can, okay.
you know, I just worry that if it's too close, they're going to run out in the street and try to, you know.
Yeah, I support
I'm
that.
just,
I support-
I would like to introduce the
With-
item
Items.
with extending in front of the school to 350 or 400 feet, and
300.
without the insurance.
so
As an
shall we-
urgency ordinance.
Yeah, the emergency ordinance, 350.
I second
from
that. I second
wherever.
three-
the
well,
distance.
Do we have to decide on the number?
Well, there has to be consensus, or you can vote
300?
separate, as a separate motion.
300,
50 feet.
350
50
feet?
feet without the insurance, the requirement of the insurance.
Is that okay?
and that's fine with me.
Okay, I need to, sorry, I'll need to, when the time comes for a motion, I'll need to read the changes because we're adopting tonight, so,
So from
200.
200 feet away from the schools?
yeah, but I actually need to read, because there's some reordering of the sections that's required. I'll just do it real quick if the council's ready.
Okay.
So the proposed changes would include an amendment to subsection, 5.35.080 E6B would be deleted, and E13 would be added to say within 350 feet of any public or private school grounds between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. on days that school is open to students. In addition, I apologize, section 5.35030, A10, that starts proof of comprehensive general liability insurance would be deleted, and subsections 11 through 14 would be renumbered to subsections 10 through 13. So those are the two items that would be changed. I've read them into the record, and they can be moved if the council so desires.
So that's my,
That's Mr. Agajanian's
I second
motion. Do I
that.
have a second. Garpetian, roll call.
Council members Agajanian?
yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian? Mayor Pro Tem Quintero?
Yes.
And we have the two resolutions, please.
We have the resolution, well, you better read it.
2 is a resolution amending the citywide fee schedule by establishing a fee for sidewalk vendor license. 3 is a resolution amending citywide fee resolution regarding administrative citation fine amounts for sidewalk vending activity.
They can be moved together?
Yes.
Okay, could I have a motion?
Okay, I'll move items 2
I
and
would-
3.
Second.
And
Roll call.
7B, 2 and 3, right? Okay.
Thank you. Council members Agajanian?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian? Mayor Pro Tem Quintero?
Yes. Next, please.
And if there is any council request to bring back a subsequent ordinance to amend the ordinance you just adopted on to address the insurance requirements,
I would request that be brought back.
it needs a second.
We need a second.
Second.
Okay.
We need a roll call.
No.
No.
All right. Next, please.
Next, C is Director of Community Development and Fire Chief regarding adoption of 2020 Glendale Building and Safety Code, introduced by Council Member Devine on November 5th, 2019. C1 is an ordinance amending specific portions of the California Building Standards Code as the Glendale Building and Safety Code 2020. 2 is a resolution adopting findings and analysis of amendments to the California Building Standards Code, Cal 24 California Code of Regulations.
Ms. Spears.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Quintero, members of the City Council, will go directly to Community Development Director, Mr. Phil Lanzafame.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this is our 3-year cycle to adopt a building code. It includes the fire code. We have outlined for you, when the ordinance was introduced, we outlined for you 4 or 5 areas that we were amending and changing from the prior code. That includes the discussion that you had on a sliding scale to reactivate permits. We've simplified the requirements for use of cloth coverings, something you would see in parks, car washes, those types of things. We've removed some amendments to become more uniform with adjacent jurisdictions. One of those was to remove the amendment that required us, when you change out a window, to enlarge that. We found that as a disincentive to energy efficiency. So if you are going to replace the window, it can stay the same size. Now, you can't make it smaller, but it can remain the same size. We removed from our amendments a provision when adding fire sprinklers. You could either add to height or building area. The code allows you to do both. It's started to move closer together to what we were, and so now doing that, you could add area under the building code, area or height. You can do both. Finally, it's important to note, we had talked about storage containers and how this code addresses storage containers. I want to clarify, it does not permit storage containers or encourage them. Storage containers are an allowed building material today. Shipping containers. They are allowed building material today. What we are including in the code is really codifying the regulations that we would use if the rules we would put if somebody wanted to use those. It's in the building code. It doesn't change the zoning code at all. We'd still have some jurisdiction in design. There are some amendments that make us consistent with the state code and the National Building Code. With that, we would recommend approval of the code, and both Chief Lanzas, Fire Marshal Ragusa, and Building Official Bear are all here if you have any questions.
Any questions or comments? No. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move the item.
Second. All right, let me say, did a heck of a job, fire included. This is quite a comprehensive overhaul. Very well done. Roll call?
Councilmember Zagajanian?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian? Mayor Pro Tem Quintero?
Yes. 8A, please.
8A is Fire Chief regarding annual inspection of occupancies required by the State of California Health and Safety Code Sections 13146.2 and 13146.3. The one is resolution recognizing the Glendale Fire Department's level of compliance with the California Health and Safety Code sections.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem, members of council, Silvio Lanzas, Fire Chief. I'm before you this evening requesting approval of a resolution recognizing the Glendale Fire Department's compliance with California Health and Safety Code Section 13146.2 and .3. This year is our first year reporting our inspection compliance data. If I could, and I could not be happier with the hard work that has been put on by our prevention staff, our fire prevention staff. Senate Bill 1205 was signed into law on September 27, 2018, following the tragic ghost ship fire which occurred in December 2016 in Oakland, California. It requires annual reporting of state-mandated inspections and acknowledgement by the City Council. Prior to this law, there were no reporting requirements. We are here before you this evening to report proudly that all of our required inspections, both E and R inspections, which the Group E inspections are our educational facilities, K through 12, with 6 or more students, and our Group R, which is our hotels, motels, residential care facilities, and apartments, 3 or more units. We are 100% compliant. We have inspected 100% of those inspections in 2019, which has not been the case in years past. Some may ask why we inspect. Why is it important that we inspect facilities, and why do we go through this action? When we are out inspecting, we are looking for the potential for fire and life safety hazards. Our areas of interest during our inspections include fire detection and alarm systems, fire protection systems, our hydrants and pumps, as well as means of ingress and egress. We also look for general housekeeping and any cluttering or large storage areas and areas that could be impacting to both firefighters and customers of the business or occupancy. As you can see here in the chart, our Group E We have 49 of those in Glendale. We are 100% compliant. Our Group R, we have 4,066 of those, and we are also 100% compliant. I'd like to also report, these are not required by the Senate Bill 1205, but we'd like to report on them also to show you the level of compliance that we are reaching in our non-required yet important inspections that we conduct. These are our high-rise buildings, our jail, our hospitals, and all assemblies, 49 or more persons. We have 386 of those, and we are on track in 2019 to also be 100% compliant. Our CUPA, Certified Unified Program Agency inspections, we have 668 of those, and we are also 100% compliant, on track to be 100% compliant by the end of the year. And lastly, our industrial waste inspections, we have 654 of those, and again, we will be 100% compliant. The Glendale Fire Department is dedicated to protecting life and property through the highest level of service to the community. One of the ways we provide that risk reduction is by our inspection program, both through plan check, our inspections, both weed abatement during brush season, and these inspections that we're reporting on are an integral part of our safety to the community, to our firefighters, and we're proud to report the 100% compliance. Our Fire Marshal Jeff Ragusa and I are both here and available to answer any questions, should you have any.
I have a question.
Sure.
So what staff is dedicated to these types of inspections?
So our fire prevention staff is the ones that are responsible for these. They're led by Battalion Chief Jeff Ragusa, who's our fire marshal. They work out of our Flowers Street, as well as a couple people that work here next door at the plan check. Those are the staff members that are assigned to these inspections. We have several senior level fire environmental safety specialists and fire environmental safety specialist staff that are essentially inspectors that do this type of work, both in the industrial waste side and our fire prevention side.
Because the sheer number of inspections is overwhelming.
It is. It is.
Very busy people.
We adjusted we realigned some duties over the past year. Previous to this year, our fire engine staff was responsible for some of these inspections. And frankly, they just didn't have the time and or the expertise. Our fire prevention staff are very professional individuals that are dedicated to this duty. This is their job. This is their career path, and they're the ones that are most able to provide the service that we expect to our customers, to our community, and to our firefighters. And I just think it's important to note that what they do not only saves lives now, but it saves lives in the future. The building code, the items that we just adopted in the item just before this, those have implications to our children, to our children's children, 40, 50, 60 years down the road. When our buildings are no longer brand new, that's when those requirements become very, very important, and the life safety component can be seen. So we take it seriously. I like to say that we fight fire aggressively, but we also are aggressive with our inspection program, and we continue to be. So I look forward to reporting 100% compliance in many years to come.
Mr. Vine.
Yeah, I just want to say that this was a yeoman's job. I mean, I don't know how long it took you. How long did it take? A year? Amazing, all these structures. But quoting the chief in our briefing, and he said that, this isn't as sexy as fighting fires, but it certainly does still save lives. And I thank you all for doing this.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll move the item if there are no other comments or
Second.
questions.
Roll call, please.
Council members Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian, Mayor Pro Tem Quintero.
Yes. Next, please.
Thank you. Next is Chief of Police regarding recommendation to dispense with competitive bidding and award a purchase order contracts for police air support helicopter engine repair services. B1 is a resolution dispensing with competitive bidding and authorizing the purchasing administrator to execute a purchase order contract with helicopter engine repair overhaul services for a term of 5 years in an amount not to exceed $900,000.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Carl Povolitis, Police Chief. As you know, we operate a joint public safety helicopter system or program with the City of Burbank. Part of our responsibility is we do the administrative part in terms of purchasing all the contracts and that type of stuff. However, we split the costs of that operation, 50/50 with the City of Burbank. At this point, it has come time to renew our contract for helicopter engine overhauls. This is a very specialized part that requires FAA certification. We are recommending in this case that you dispense with competitive bidding and authorize the purchasing administrator to issue a purchase order in the amount not to exceed $900,000 with helicopter engine repair and overhaul services, which is a company located in Valencia. We have used them in the past. We have been very satisfied with their service and high quality work. And the other advantage that it really has is that the technical assistants that happen to be up in Valencia now, they used to be in Glendale, but they moved up to Valencia for more space, is that technical advice, whether we need it on site or whether we need to go there, is that close to us, which allows us to be much more efficient in terms of our operations. These operations are all overseen by our own maintenance director, who works actually for the City of Glendale and is a certified airframe and power plant mechanic. So as I said, we're very happy with the service, very technical. There aren't any there. So if we don't go with something local, we are either out of state or out of this state or out of the country to have those services done, which then obviously delays our ability to provide those services. And so with that, we're respectfully requesting that you authorize us to be able to enter into a contract with Heroes.
I would like to move the item.
And I just want to mention, this is not going to cost Glendale $900,000. We are splitting this cost with Burbank, so it's half of that.
That's correct.
Over 3 years.
And neither are the expenditures necessarily even over the year. It's all dependent on the number of hours the aircraft flies. But no, of the $900,000, I said operational costs are split 50/50 with Burbank, so we're responsible for half this cost.
Okay, great. So I'll
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council members Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian, Mayor Pro Tem Quintero.
Yes. 8C, please.
8C is General Manager of Glendale Water and Power regarding procurement of PAC's water quality distribution control system. C1 is resolution dispensing with competitive bidding and authorizing the purchasing administrator to execute a purchase order with Doan and Hartwig Water Systems, Inc. in a not to exceed amount of $268,348.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, I'm here to talk about water. That subject came up early. And this is an aspect of our water maintenance that I think is the highest priority that we have in the water division. That's to provide the safest, cleanest drinking water to our customers. Water that today meets or exceeds every federal, state, and local guideline. In that vein, we're asking you tonight to approve the purchase or to authorize the purchasing administrator to issue a purchase order for the PAC's water quality distribution control system. This is a mobile unit that we're able to take from water facility to water facility, reservoir or tank, where we store our water and distribute it to our customers. And we can then administer a disinfectant because that's a key element in how we maintain our water system. Believe it or not, today we do that by manually administering chlorine to the water. A somewhat outdated but not unusual way that people do that. This device, which is a very unique piece of equipment that we tested over a 9-month period, uses what are called chloramines. So not just straight chlorine, but a mix of aqueous ammonia and chlorine to provide or deliver the highest level of disinfectant. The secondary part of it is a mixing device that goes inside the tank and agitates the water to ensure that the disinfectant is equally distributed. That helps with the overall water quality. It allows the disinfectant to reach the entire system in equal amounts or close to equal amounts. And most importantly for our customers, it will hopefully reduce the smell and odor that you get, the chlorine smell and odor that you get, especially right after we have administered the disinfectant. So this is a really great system. Again, it's portable. We put this on the back of a truck. We can take it to any of our facilities. We test our facilities in-house a minimum of weekly, if not more often, depending on the facility and the type of use that facility gets. But this device we found over this 9-month pilot program to be very, very effective and safe. And safe for, I think, our employees who are administering directly the chlorine, which forgive me for scoffing, but you would think in this day and age we would have gotten past that, but literally to get it there, it is no different than what you see pool folks do when they maintain a pool. This really puts us in a different realm and allows us to maintain a more consistent and a little bit higher level of disinfectant in our water. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Total price on this, $268,000. We own the equipment, and we'll be able to use that in all of our facilities.
Questions or comments?
I just, if I could, I just think it's fascinating, and that, like you mentioned, it's, the way we do it now is just just like your pool man does, just throw the chlorine, and it just kind of sits there unless you're like, somebody that has a pool, then you can stir it up. This is going to allow us to stir it up, and it'll kind of dissipate
Absolutely.
into all of the water so that.
Much more effectively.
Yeah.
Usually just the inlet and the outlet of the water moving through the tank is what really is the agitator. It's not as effective as this device will be.
Yeah,
So absolutely.
terrific. Yeah, I'll move the item.
Second?
Second, that's second.
All right, second. Roll call.
Council members Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian, Mayor Pro Tem Quintero.
Yes. Next, please.
Next, under hearings, 9A is Director of Community Development regarding 1420, and Mr. Mayor and Council, allow me to read all of the items because we've been instructed by the city attorney that they can all be heard at once and acted upon together. 9A is a hearing. In fact, 9A, B, and C are all hearings. A is Director of Community Development regarding 1427 Andenise Drive, Glendale Register nomination and Mills Act application. 9A1 is resolution to list 1427 Andenise Drive on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and authorize a Mills Act contract between the owner and the city. 2 is the motion not to list 1427 Andenise Drive on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and not authorize a Mills Act contract between the owner and the city. B is the Director of Community Development, again, regarding 1390 Greenmont Drive, Glendale Registration nomination. 1 is a resolution to list 1390 Greenmont Drive on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and authorize a Mills Act contract between the owner and the city. And 2 is a motion to not list 1390 Greenmont Drive on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and not authorize a Mills Act contract between the owner and the city. C is Director of Community Development regarding 1116 Don Jose Drive, Glendale Register nomination. C1 is a resolution to list 116 Don Jose Drive on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and authorize a Mills Act contract between the owner and the city.
Ms. Spears.
And I'm sorry, and 2 is a motion to not list 116 Don Jose Drive on Glendale Register of Historic Resources and not authorize a Mills Act contract between owner and the city.
Spears.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, you'd open the hearing at this time, and we will go directly to Mr. Jay Platt, our senior urban designer.
Thank you. Could you enlarge this?
Yeah, we will. And just give me 1 second. There you go.
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to open the hearing,
We'll open the public hearing.
Thank you. I have just a few slides for each of the 3 houses you're considering tonight, Glendale Register and the Mills Act. The first item is a very unique house in Glendale. It's the only Swiss chalet-style house that I'm familiar with. If there are others, it would be a surprise, but you never know. It was built in 1937 for Marion Austin, who was a widow who was very involved in the design of the house, working closely with a builder who had some Hollywood experience. And when you look at the details of this house, you see it's just very fanciful. It has half timbering. It has very hand-textured stucco work. It has murals and things painted on it. You could call it whimsical. You could call it almost like a fairy tale house in a lot of ways. The upper picture showing the lower level as you're kind of at the porch, but the actual entry to the house and the living spaces are up on the second floor. Here's an example, a couple of examples of the painted decoration on the house. The woodwork is very handcrafted. It feels like it was from the old country and was deliberately designed to feel that way. Here are some of the other balconies. If you look, it's hard to see in this image, but these brackets are just the biggest, craziest brackets that we have in Glendale that I've seen so far. It's really an interesting house. It has a really interesting story. There's an old dumbwaiter that used to bring groceries up from the ground level up to the upper floor. Doesn't work anymore, unfortunately, but it's still in there. And just lots of interesting details, and all of it feeling very handcrafted. There's an upper level pool and kind of deck area that's at the higher elevation behind the house. There's no visual relationship between the house and this area. So the Historic Preservation Commission, when recommending this property for designation, felt that there was no connection here, so it didn't matter that this was kind of a different feel than the rest of the house. And the commission really only found a couple of things. With Mills Act contracts, we generally often have conditions that are applied to the contract for work to kind of just bring the house closer to its original appearance. In this case, there's 2 stairways. The upper 2 photos had some repair work done at some point in the past, and just the concrete patching isn't very good, doesn't match. So the condition would be to remove that and to repatch with something that's more appropriate. And then in the lower photos, you can barely see, but there's an electrical conduit running along the woodwork there. And the idea was just to paint that brown to match the wood to just make it blend away. If you don't have any questions on this house, I can go to the second.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you know what's the square footage of the improvement?
Of the entire house?
Yes.
I actually don't. We usually don't include that in our staff reports, but the owner is here if you wanted to open or ask the owner.
That's good. Yeah. If they can answer it, otherwise it doesn't matter.
It's not a large house. It's fairly compact, yeah, because it's set against the hill. So let me try to go back, and you might get a view of it. Well, from this angle, because it's set against the hill, it's basically 1 room deep along the entire width of the house. So it's not too large.
Can I ask a question? Can they fix the dumbwaiter with the Mills Act? Is that
because
or is
that's
it
an
only
interior
the exterior?
feature?
It's
Yeah,
only
we only
exterior.
focus on the exterior.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
But they could if they wanted to. And so those are the 2 Mills Act conditions that we're recommending. The second house is at 1390 Greenmont Drive. I'm sorry.
The murals are original to the house?
The what?
The murals?
Yes, I believe they're all original.
They're interesting. So.
Don't go picking on those murals.
No, I'm not picking on these murals. These look no, because I asked in the past if in residential neighborhoods we can have murals. They said the answer was no, but this goes really well. This is a beautiful house. I'm not picking on the murals. And there are 2 articles here in our packet that one says I can hardly read this.
Read it, yeah.
It says complimentary tour at Verdugo Woodlands, if I'm not mistaken. Is it? It's page 18.
Page 18.
I don't know if it's the same house, and also they have a picture of this house in one of the articles, which is really
I sure
interesting.
I sure can't read that in this, so I'm not sure.
No, I can read that part. It says it's written in an angle, so
yeah.
I really like this This helps a lot. Whose house is this, by the way? Okay, very nice. Beautiful house. Congratulations. Well, I don't have any other comments other than it's a great looking house.
Okay. The second house under consideration, 1390 Greenmont Drive, is a very different house, but no less distinctive in my estimation. The commission also found this house to be eligible under Criterion 3 for designation and also for a Mills Act contract. We're calling this the Jack and Joanne Taylor House. That's because we already have a Taylor house listed, so we have to kind of find a name that's slightly different. As with most of our houses that have names, it's usually named after the first owners, unless there's a reason to name it after someone else. The house was built in 1959, and it was designed by Jim Langenheim, who's a very interesting architect whose reputation up till this point has kind of been in the shadows because he worked for one of the major Los Angeles architectural firms, Pereira and Luckman, and did a lot of major work for them in the 50s and 60s, but his name hasn't kind of risen to the top. But when you look at this house, which is deceptively simple looking when you're just looking at some of these images, but it's actually a very complicated house, and it's in very, very original condition. So you can see this this block feature here is actually kind of a decorative screen wall shielding a bedroom window behind it. What you can't see here is that this isn't stucco. It's this interesting kind of stone tile. So it's got kind of a textural aspect that you wouldn't necessarily expect. The front door is located here. original details down to the doorknobs. When you look up the driveway toward the house, you can see the same volume. But even this retaining wall, which looks like just a retaining wall unless you look at it closely, has some very interesting features, including this kind of triangular diamond-shaped pattern that you're going to see as a motif that runs through the entire design of the house. So it introduces itself at the street and then really reveals itself when you're inside and in the backyard. Here's the carport. This is the back side of that, the stone tile wall. And here we are in the backyard, the original pool, which is not very common. We don't have a lot of houses with original pools. The architect designed this to follow this kind of triangular and hexagonal motif, and then you see it in the paving around the pool. Also, you see it in this little cutout in the roof, and then there's a little triangular kind of fountain bed there. Mr. Langenheim designed the house in 1959. The previous owner wanted to add to the house and create kind of an office space and a little addition. They actually approached Langenheim, who was retired at that point. He came out of retirement to design this addition. So we think this is a part of the design of the house. And what you can see is that the house is pretty simple in appearance with these stucco walls, but when you look at the angle of the cornice that kind of runs along the entire house, it really ties everything together, including this addition. And then when you look at the floor plan, you can see just how complicated the house really is in terms of the shapes of the rooms. There are supposedly only 2 right angles in the entire house, and those are inside closets. So even the showers are triangular. The commission found this house to be in really original condition and didn't recommend any Mills Act conditions. Any questions?
And just for your edification, my question was, since there weren't any recommendations for, working on the house or doing any upgrades on the house, why was the Mills Act necessary? And Mr. Platt, do you want to give me your answer?
Well, the Mills Act is necessary because all houses will require upkeep over the years. The current owners have expressed deep love for this house and look like they're going to be great stewards for it. And through the Mills Act, which extends to future owners, we can expect that to continue. In addition, and the Mills Act does not cover interiors, but I just wanted to mention that this house is really original on the inside also, surprisingly so. Theoretically, some of that Mills Act money, as long as the owner wanted to use that to maintain the interior, it could go for that.
Yeah.
And
you also mentioned that the wall, there may be some work necessary on the wall.
Yeah,
that would.
There's some sections of this wall that will require some work at some point, and it's a character-defining feature of the house because of its design, which most retaining walls we wouldn't say have that aspect. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Garpetti.
When we were being briefed on this house, I asked the question because from the pictures are not doing justice to the design of this house, and I said, what's the difference between this house and other modern-style homes that we have in Glendale? And when you look at the floor plan, you see the difference. I think that the fact that there is not even one square angle, a corner in this house is really amazing, the way that this is designed. When you look at the floor plan, you understand how interesting this house is. Because with the pictures, I couldn't tell the difference, but this floor plan really helped me a lot, so I want to thank you for that. It's a great looking house.
Okay, a third property is a real shift of gears from the previous two. Now we're moving back into more of the traditional styles that we see in Glendale from the 1920s and 1930s. This is 1116 Don Jose, which is an American colonial revival style design built in 1933. It's been called the Wright House after the original owner. And this house reflects kind of a shift. American colonial revival is not the most popular style that we have in Glendale, and we don't have nearly as many of these types of houses designated as we have of several other styles. But the houses from the 20s, and if you can picture the house that everyone calls Terra on Kenneth Road, the Boyd Madison house with the columns in front, and it's perfectly symmetrical. That's the kind of American colonial revival house that's associated with the 20s. As we moved into the 1930s, the style started shifting a bit into a more asymmetrical balance of the forms, and that's what you see here with the two-story main block of the house, the offset entry, and then the one-story wing for the living room extending to the side in both of these photos. The house has many interesting features of the style, especially this kind of entry portico or porch with the paired columns, the classical detailing, and then when you get to the front door, you see the classical fan light and leaded glass windows in the leaded glass in these side lights. Original wood windows through a large part of the house, but I'll show you some that actually have been altered that there's a Mills Act condition about. And oh, well, I guess we can start talking about that. There's a few aspects of this property that the commission felt would be made, the property would be made more in its original condition if there were Mills Act conditions for. One of them is some vinyl windows have been installed. So most of the windows on the house are original, and they will serve as a model for any replacement windows if you approve the Mills Act for this with this condition. So these vinyl windows, this one is actually facing the street. All the others are replacements on the side toward the back of the house. And they're just a few. I think there are about 5 windows that would need to be replaced. There's the portico, this front porch area, has a balustrade, kind of a railing across the top that serves as a balcony. There's a French door at the top that opened onto this, so you can actually step out onto this. Things like this don't usually get a lot of use, and they were originally designed with low railings, and the proportion of the low railing is in keeping with the style and the tradition of building these kind of entryways. At some point, a previous owner added a secondary railing on top of the lower railing. The goal, obviously, was to make it feel more safe for anyone walking out there. The commission felt that this upper railing should be removed. Building and safety, we could use the historical building code, so we wouldn't be required to add a higher railing. But if the owner chose to, or just wanted to have a safer feeling if they were using that area, or if anyone was going to go out there, we talked with the commission about several options to put very light kind of secondary railing that wouldn't be as visually obtrusive. You know, this is kind of a very heavy railing on top of this railing. So the commission approved said the condition should be written so that this is to be removed, and if the owner desires a railing, we would work with them to create kind of a lighter railing that brought it up to the 42 inches. That's generally the safe level building and safety looks for. The other condition, besides the windows, or another condition, is this fence area. This is a non-original fence, but its design is very in keeping with the style of the house, so someone did this very thoughtfully, the previous owner. This section, because it's in front of the main part of the house, feels like it's hiding part of the historic volume of the house. So the commission recommends a Mills Act condition to remove this section here, keep this brick pier at this location, and then if you can picture either this being reconfigured or a new section of fence just shooting from this pier back toward the corner of the house, and that would allow this area of the house to be revealed as it originally was. So those conditions are mentioned here, and then there is also a condition to just paint the house. It's in need of a paint job. And that's all I've got.
Any questions or comments?
If I may, so the commission did not recommend that they remove that entire railing?
No, just the upper section of the railing.
Because I thought they were recommending to take the whole thing down and then put a metal railing up there.
No. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear
this
that.
area, if you can see this line here, that's the original top of the railing. It's probably about, I don't know, 28 inches high, something like that.
Yeah.
It's a little lower than a standard railing. The removal would only be this upper section, which was designed to look nice. They did it to kind of match the lower railing, but it changes the proportions to the point that the commission thought it should be removed.
No, I'm glad to hear that because I thought that I thought it added something to the house. I thought, they removed that, so that's good news. Thank you. It's a beautiful house.
Any other comments or questions?
I just want to make one comment with humor. I mean, these are all beautiful homes, but when you look at the plans that were submitted, I don't know if it's visible or not. If you can put that, I don't know if it's part of the packet or not, but this was Let me just see if I can. This was what was submitted in order to build a house, a beautiful house like that. And this is the plot plan, so they show where the house is going to be on the property. But yet, they built these beautiful homes that's still standing, and we are really admiring today. This is really interesting. I just wanted to mention that the difference between what we submit today and what was submitted in the past is day and night. So, thank you, Mr.
Okay, well, from my perspective, living in a mid-century home in a mid-century neighborhood, I'm particularly happy to see Greenmont Drive. I like to go by and look at the homes before we approve them. I didn't have a chance to do that, but I'm going to drive by all three of them. So, congratulations to the owners and congratulations to Glendale.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing.
I'll move all three properties.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Council members Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor Najarian, and Mayor Pro Tem Quintero.
Yes. Next, please.
Next item on the agenda is the oral communications portion of the meeting. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. City manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report, and there was one card submitted.
I have one card, Herbert Milano.
Mayor Pro Tem Quintero, members of the City Council, my name is Herbert Milano. On September the 10th of this year, the City Council introduced an ordinance that you will be receiving back on December the 10th with the objective to ban vacation rentals in Glendale and to limit and license home sharing. In the past 2 months, I have been researching the information that led to this ordinance to see if there was sufficient justification for the ordinance itself. The ordinance is supported by 5 pillars or 5 rationales: that there were party houses, nuisance, health, and sanitary problems, that there was a change in the character of many neighborhoods, that there was a potential loss of multifamily housing, and there's loss of affordable housing, and that there's an opportunity to increase the transient occupancy tax. Those were the 5 major items that were presented as the rationale for the ordinance. And in my research, through using the California Public Records Act, I have not been able to find sufficient evidence to support that. There were 3 homes that were identified. 2 of them have multiple complaints. One of those was identified as an Airbnb home. One of them was definitely a party house, not necessarily related to the short-term rental. But nonetheless, there were almost 1,500 complaints of parties and loud noise in the city of Glendale during the year 2018. And out of those, basically only 2 homes that were related to short-term rental, and problems that could easily be managed by the current city ordinances, and also by the Airbnb platforms themselves. I submitted a 12-page report on my preliminary analysis of that issue. So I have not really found any sufficient justification with regard to the potential loss of multifamily housing, for example, because the city doesn't have any data. We don't know how many are single-family homes and how many are apartments. The staff has not had the time to search deeply or to hire anyone to obtain the data. We don't know how many apartments may be impacted with regard to being turned into short-term rentals. But what we do know is that, according to the report, that the average number of weeks is like 2 months of total out of the whole year. It's really significantly minimal that where families that are turning to short-term rentals. But the ordinance may be harmful to a lot of individuals who turn to short-term rental in order to support their payment of their mortgage. Many people who were impacted by the recession, who lost their jobs, who lost their pensions, who lost a significant amount of their pension, and now rent their homes part of the year or they rent their homes when they are away, let's say getting cancer treatment, or where their Social Security is insufficient. I was just reminded not long ago with the fires that the extent and the effort that the city makes in order to protect homes. The fire department and the police department and the collaborative nature of multiple cities trying to defend and protect those homes that are in danger of fire. I was also reminded today of the other alternative problem that we have with mudslides and the significant efforts that I've seen the city of Glendale protecting homes. And yet, this ordinance may be just as damaging to many homeowners who will not be able to get the income necessary to be able to maintain their mortgages, maintain their payments. And I think that the city should spend at least a year truly evaluating the full impact. Why do people turn to short-term rentals, right? And what is the potential increase of short-term rentals? In 10 years that Airbnb has been around, we have less than 500 identified units on short-term rental, and it's very different from the situation at other cities. Very different. We're not the kind of tourist destination of other cities close to the beach, for example. So I'd like to suggest that when it comes before you, if it is the desire of this council to pass a transient occupancy tax, I think that most of us are in agreement to have that tax imposed. But we would rather that the city wait and evaluate for at least a year to see what the overall impacts are and get the actual data to support the ordinance. Thank you very much.
That's the final card. Next, please.
Mr. Mayor and Council, if there's any new business.
New
I
business.
have new business.
Mr. Vine?
Yes. I would move that the city attorney be and hereby is authorized to enter into a legal services agreement with the law firm Mercer Thompson LLC to draft and negotiate, engineer, procure, construct, and long-term maintenance contracts for the city of Glendale and to incur all necessary expenses in connection therewith. The agreement shall, in addition to other provisions, contain a fee cap and an estimated budget for the handling of said matter.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmembers Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian, Mayor Pro Tem Quintero.
Yes. What's next?
I have a new
Oh, you
business
have
as
new
well.
business?
Oh, yes. I move that the matter entitled Munis versus City of Glendale et al., Superior Court Case Number BC 687200 be compromised and settled for the full and complete sum of $28,000, and the same is hereby approved and accepted, and the Director of Finance is authorized to issue a warrant in said sum for upon the execution by the plaintiff of a release and dismissal with prejudice.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmembers Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian, Mayor Pro Tem Quintero.
Yes. That's it.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.